to leave it with the voters for President Trump next year. With that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Arizona, Ms. Lesko.
Gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you all know, I serve on both the Judiciary Committee and Rules Committee, and I have literally spent hours poring over testimony, looking at documents, sitting in hearings, and you know the conclusion I got from all of that? This impeachment is a total joke and a total sham.
It's partisan.
Let me tell you one of the reasons why I think that. All of those witnesses, the 17 witnesses that the Democrats brought forward, not one single one of them was able to establish that President Trump committed bribery, treason, high crimes, or misdemeanors, which is required in the U.S. Constitution.
It's an and.
And again, 17 out of 24 Democrat members on Judiciary Committee voted on this floor to move forward articles of impeachment before the phone call. And 5 out of 9 Rule Committee Democrat members did the same thing. So if the main part of your impeachment is the call, why did you vote for impeachment prior to the call? I also want to remind the American public and others that for 2 years, Adam Schiff claimed he had proof that President Trump had colluded with Russia. That turned out to be false. And then overnight, it was obstruction of justice, then quid pro quo, then bribery, then extortion, and the list goes on. But yet not one of those is listed in the articles of impeachment. To my Democrat colleagues, Madam Chair, I say, please stop tearing the country apart. Stop this sham. And I yield back.
Gentleman from New York.
The gentlelady is correct. President Trump's behavior is not new. He has a pattern of engaging in misconduct and then obstructing any investigation into his misconduct to cover up his actions and hide the truth from the American people. I now yield to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Roybal Allard, for the purpose of a unanimous consent request.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of today's impeachment proceedings and ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
The distinguished gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Langevin.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, Madam Speaker. Our nation was founded on certain principles: that government should be of, by, and for the people; that a system of 3 co-equal branches of government will provide the checks and balances necessary to ensure the people's voices are heard, and that no one is above the law. Today, sadly, we are voting to impeach President Donald John Trump because he has fundamentally broken his covenant with the American people. In doing so, we are using the powers the Founding Fathers enshrined in the Constitution to address a president who has violated his oath of office. The evidence is clear and the facts are not in question. President Trump is consistently engaged in a pattern of behavior inconsistent with the rule of law. He has refused to take responsibility for his actions. He has undermined the checks and balances we rely on by obstructing Congress at every turn. And most importantly, he has abused his power by using his office to solicit foreign interference in our elections, undermining the will of the people. So on this sad day for our nation, I will do what the president has so often failed to do, and I will fulfill my oath to support and defend the Constitution, and I will vote in favor of impeachment. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, it is my pleasure to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Chapman.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is a sad day in our nation's history as House Democrats are poised to approve on a strictly party-line vote articles of impeachment based on what constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley called wafer-thin evidence. This will set a dangerous precedent where impeachment becomes the norm rather than the exception. That's not what our founding fathers intended. They wanted impeachment to be rare. They set a high bar for impeachment: treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors.
And
alleged abuse of power, the first article, is not a high crime and misdemeanor. In fact, it's not even a crime. And since there's no concise legal definition of abuse of power, the majority party in the House can designate nearly any disagreement with the president from now on an impeachable offense. The second article, alleged obstruction of Congress, would produce a similarly dangerous precedent. Asserting executive privilege, a practice that began with George Washington, is not obstruction of Congress. Rather, it's a function of the essential checks and balances contemplated under the Constitution. Here's what nearly every grade school student in America knows, but apparently House Democrats do not. If Congress disagrees with the president, if they don't agree with the president, take it to court. Let the third branch of government decide. They're the refs. The House has never, I repeat, never approved either abuse of power or obstruction of Congress as an article of impeachment. But that's going to change today. Today, House Democrats are pursuing a wacky constitutional theory under which all four presidents on Mount Rushmore could have been impeached. If all of this sounds absurd, Madam Speaker, it's because it is absurd. In fact, this whole process is absurd and has been from the outset. But here's what's not absurd, but rather frightening. House Democrats today are setting a dangerous precedent under which no future president will be immune from impeachment, and that will forever negatively tarnish the history of this House.
Gentleman yields back.
I'm going to do a little bit of my own analysis now. I tried to talk with my audience about what these articles of impeachment are actually all about. And when you ask that question, when I've asked that question in general, what I've heard is, oh, Dinas, you're just a complete idiot. You've been living under a rock. Can't you see it? Donald Trump is evil, that type of thing. So then I got into a very involved discussion about the aid and about the investigation of Hunter Biden, who is Joe Biden's son. For me, there's an illegal occupation of Crimea currently. That region of the world has money, has natural resources, and U.S. interests are to secure those resources. It's a lot of money. What I don't understand is I looked at the transcript of Trump's discussion with Ukraine's president, and it seems really important to support the reduction of corruption in that part of the world. What also I kind of didn't get is it's Biden's son. It's Hunter Biden. So what? So how is that interference in our election in the United States? So apparently the worst that could happen is that Hunter Biden could have had sort of cushy non-job, sitting on the board of, I guess, an oil company or something like that, where he barely had any responsibilities and he was just getting paid a lot of money. Okay. So the worst that could happen is Hunter Biden loses his job. The best that could happen is that Hunter Biden comes out completely clean, and his dad does even better in the 2020 election. So if you allow a U.S. investigation to take place in a country like the Ukraine, you only have benefit. You have, at the end of it, you have less corruption. You have more safety. You give less power to mafia type bosses, and so if Trump makes it so that there would be an investigation, if Trump's like wrong about everything, he'll look like a moron, so it reduces his chances of getting reelected. And the investigation itself is a safety measure. that to me, I'm going to go ahead and listen to what this gentleman has to say. It's just,
And a baseless Russian conspiracy theory, while withholding congressionally appropriated defense aid and a coveted White House visit. He then blocked congressional investigation into these abuses. These abuses threaten the integrity of our elections, they corrupt our diplomacy, and they undermine national security. We sometimes regard constitutional checks and balances as the indestructible underpinnings of our democracy. In fact, they're not fixed, they're not indestructible. The president has demonstrated this beyond all doubt. It's up to the Congress, the first branch of government, to apply.
Okay, well, so for me, basically, an enemy of the United States could not be happier. Why? This is impeachment that is happening directly along partisan lines. Not one Democrat voted against impeachment, and I think not one Republican voted for impeachment. I would think that the Constitution and U.S. law should be changed to where this kind of an impeachment cannot happen. You cannot have impeachments upon party lines. It makes the United States completely vulnerable, and what it does for corrupt, let's just say the corrupt oil industry, to make it, specific, but also banking. All you have to do now is you have to get the child of a U.S. politician onto your board, or as an intern or whatever it is. And once you have your little poster child, you get your U.S. little poster child wherever it is in the world. You have your company, you hide the corruption from your United States naive little poster child marshmallow person, no matter their color of skin. I'm talking about American naivete regarding how mafia, how brutal corruption actually works in the world, right? So you just get your little poster child, and then you can be as corrupt as you want. You can do money laundering, bank scandals, oil industry scandals. So you just get your little American poster child, and you can do what you want. And then if the opposing party tries to launch an investigation, then it just creates this massive fiasco within U.S. politics. And what's amazing is that this is really an indication of a current lack of ability to make sound decisions by the U.S. government bodies. Because if the decision is being made directly and only in accordance with party lines, it can't be rational. If it's a discussion about impeachment, or if it's a discussion about national security, or if it's a discussion about how to use foreign aid, you're gonna have to, by the very nature of how decisions work, the cooperation in the middle, cooperation in bipartisan committees and bipartisan work, is how and if there are additional parties, 3 parties, right? That's the only way that we're going to get to sound decisions, and this is happening absolutely, completely in accordance with party lines. That's really dangerous for the United States. And the allegations seem really weird to me. Like, so what? Investigate Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, that thing winds up corrupt. Okay, well, that kind of stuff can happen. You can, children are not always, doing the right thing at all points in their lives. Hunter Biden's almost exactly my age. It's the son of a, famous politician. Maybe he got himself into some nasty stuff. Maybe not. Investigate. Help the people of Ukraine. Investigate the corruption. It increases safety in the region if you investigate. He comes out bad, he comes out bad. He comes out good, he comes out good. And one of the odd things is that about Joe Biden is really a pretty terrible candidate. I mean, Joe, if you're listening, I'm sorry, the way that you've sniffed those little girls' hair and the way that you've touched them, it makes it almost impossible for you to win the presidency. So essentially, Biden not being the Democrats' candidate is good for the Democratic Party. The Democrats are going to put a better candidate if they don't run Joe Biden. Anyway, so investigating the corruption in the Ukraine is a good thing. Not running Joe Biden is a good thing for the Democrats. A president should be able to make negotiations, and I don't understand the whole quid pro quo thing because the Republicans are taking it back, stepping back behind it. I would almost say, of course, a president should be able to say, you have to show that this money is going to go to what it's going to go for, because the type of corruption is, you give $1 billion and 990 million of it goes into somebody's pocket, and 10 million of it buys, some used guns from Africa. That's the kind of stuff that would go down. I guess it was 700 million. Okay, fine. 690 million goes to somebody's pocket, and 10 million of it goes to buy some partially functional guns from Ghana, from some warehouse. And if you, say anything about it, you get murdered. It's really disturbing that this discussion isn't going to what are the exact crimes, and that both parties don't agree. Because for there to be an impeachment, it should be really clear that both parties are saying this person has committed treason. If there's this much divisiveness, well, it's just why are they saying the same thing over and over and over again? I agree. So am I. So I'll stop saying the same thing over again. But I find these proceedings really, really concerning, and I think that legislation should be put into place to make it a requirement that impeachment must be bipartisan. You can't do this. This is like writing a little instruction book for the enemies of the United States to be able to corrupt the nation from within. It makes the procedure really pretty simple if you're smart about it. Oh well, this is tough to watch. Bye, everybody.